They say your wedding day is supposed to be the happiest day of your life. For me, it started like that. My name is Ethan Carter, and 2 years ago, I married the woman of my dreams, or so I thought. Her name was Lila. Beautiful, magnetic, unpredictable in the most intoxicating way. We met at a bookstore downtown, which in hindsight already sounds like a scene too perfect to be real. She was thumbing through an old copy of The Bell Jar, and I, awkward as hell, made a dumb joke about how cheerful her reading material was. She laughed. That kind of laugh that makes you forget your own name. We dated for a year, and during that time, everything felt electric. Lila had this ability to make the mundane feel magical. Sunday morning coffee runs turned into spontaneous road trips. Rainy nights became slow dances in the kitchen. She'd show up at my office with lunch and a post-it note that said, "Still choosing you." I was hooked. My parents adored her. My friends warned me she was a little intense, but I brushed it off. I liked intense. I mistook it for passion. The proposal happened under a cascade of lanterns at her favorite lake. She cried, said yes, told me she'd never felt safer. We married in June, under the kind of blue sky you only get once or twice a year. She wore a silk dress that clung to her like a second skin, and her eyes sparkled like she knew something I didn't. The honeymoon was quiet. She didn't want a big trip. Said she just wanted to rest in the silence with me. So we rented a cabin 2 hours from the city, with no reception, no distractions. For the first few days, it was perfect. Until it wasn't. On the 5th night, I woke up alone. Her side of the bed was cold. I figured she went outside for air. She did that sometimes when she couldn't sleep. But she wasn't on the porch. Not by the lake. Not in the kitchen. She was gone. Her phone was still there. Her wedding ring too, sitting in the soap dish like she'd just washed her hands and forgot to put it back. I searched the woods, screamed her name for hours, barefoot, bleeding from thorns. Nothing. I called the police. Filed a report. Her parents were frantic. Her best friend Julia drove up the next morning. The cops thought she might have had cold feet and ran. But who waits until after the vows and honeymoon to bolt? That week was a blur. Flyers. Interviews. A search party. No leads. No sightings. I was crushed. Destroyed. Humiliated. Angry. And yet, a part of me still hoped she'd walk back in the door and say it was all a misunderstanding. That she got lost. That she was scared. That never happened. She didn't come back. Not until a year later, when I found out she never really left. Not the way I thought, anyway. In the weeks after Lila disappeared, I felt like I was living someone else's nightmare. The cabin, once filled with love and laughter, had become a hollow shell of what it was. Every corner of our apartment screamed her name. Her sweater still hung on the kitchen chair. Her scent clung to our bed. I barely ate. I didn't go to work. I spiraled. The police couldn't find any foul play, no evidence of struggle, nothing pointing to an abduction. Just a woman who vanished. Voluntarily, they assumed. Friends tried to comfort me with cliches. Maybe she's dealing with something. Or some people just break under pressure. But they didn't know Lila. Or so I thought. 3 months in, I started therapy. Not because I wanted to, but because my best friend Marcus basically dragged me there. And to my surprise, it helped. I learned to stop blaming myself. To start grieving. To accept the idea that maybe I'd never get answers. But closure is a myth. 6 months after the wedding, I returned to the bookstore where we met. I guess out of nostalgia, or maybe just to punish myself. I wandered through the aisles like a ghost. That's when I saw her best friend Julia, the one who'd shown up at the cabin in a panic the morning after Lila vanished. She looked startled to see me. "Oh, Ethan. I didn't expect. Are you okay?" she asked, fidgeting with her keys. I nodded, but something about her felt off. Rushed. Like she didn't want to talk. She used to be so warm with me. Now she couldn't meet my eyes. We talked for a minute or two. Just small talk. But as she left, she muttered something that froze me in place. She always said this place felt like a hiding spot. I called after her. "What do you mean?" But she was already gone. That night, I couldn't sleep. Her words ran circles in my head. A hiding spot. I started replaying everything in my mind, from the moment we met to the second she disappeared. That's when I remembered something I had buried. 2 months before the wedding, Lila had gotten a phone call late at night. I was half asleep. She slipped out of bed to answer it. When she came back, she looked pale. "Everything okay?" I mumbled. "Yeah, just some drama with Julia. Go back to sleep." I believed her. Why wouldn't I? But now that memory had a bitter taste. What if she lied? What if Julia knew more than she let on? Fueled by anxiety, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through her old laptop. She'd left it behind, locked, collecting dust under our bed. I guessed the password. Her favorite poem, Mad Girl 1963. A Plath reference, of course. Most files were boring. Documents, wedding plans, saved playlists. But one folder stood out. It was called Tuesday. Inside were screenshots of bank transfers. Names I didn't recognize. Dozens of emails. And one image that stopped my heart. A lease agreement. For an apartment. In another city. Signed 2 weeks before our wedding. By Lila Evans, her maiden name. My hands were shaking as I clicked through the rest of the files in that folder. The lease was real. The address was in a city 2 hours away, not the cabin, but in the opposite direction. A furnished apartment. Rent paid 6 months in advance. Why would she sign a lease like that before our wedding? Unless she never planned to stay. There was also a second email account logged in on her browser, a Gmail address I'd never seen before. I clicked it open. The inbox was minimal, but the sent folder. Dozens of messages. All to someone named Nico. Money's in the account. One more transfer, and we're done. He's still clueless. I feel like a monster. I just need to make it through the vows. After that, I'm gone. My stomach dropped. The most recent message was dated the night before she vanished. He kissed me tonight like he meant it. Like I wasn't faking everything. I almost told him. I almost ruined it all. But I can't. I have to finish what we started. I slammed the laptop shut. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Faking everything. I sat in the darkness of our bedroom, listening to the hum of the city outside, feeling like my world was collapsing in on itself. My wife, the woman I married, cried over, searched for, had planned to leave me. And not just leave, con me. But the question was, why? Why marry me at all? The next morning, I called the number linked to the lease. A woman answered. The manager. I told her I was looking for my sister, who had rented the apartment months ago. She hesitated. Oh, Lila? She doesn't live here anymore. My throat tightened. Did she ever move in? Yes, briefly. 2, maybe 3 weeks. Very quiet. Paid in cash after the first transfer. Said she was going overseas. Left no forwarding address. Overseas? I asked if the manager had any forwarding contacts, but she refused to share. Still, I had an idea now. She had run. She had planned this whole thing with someone named Nico. Whoever he was in on it. I needed answers. And for some reason, I couldn't let this go without confronting someone. So I called Julia. She didn't pick up. I tried again. Still nothing. So I drove to her apartment. When she opened the door, her face went white. I didn't even say hello. I held up my phone. Who the hell is Nico? Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Julia, I said, shaking, don't lie to me. I know everything. I found the lease. The emails. She planned it all. You knew, didn't you? She stepped back, motioning me in. I didn't want to be part of this, she whispered. I told her it was cruel. But she wouldn't listen. What did she do? I demanded. What exactly did she do? Julia looked like she might cry. She married you for the insurance money, Ethan. You had her on your life policy, right? I staggered back. She continued. You told her during your 3rd date that you'd put whoever you married on your company plan because you didn't believe in prenups or secrets. She never forgot that. My ears were ringing. Julia wiped her face. She didn't mean to fall for you. That's what she said. But she had already made a deal. With him. With Nico. I stood in silence. My heart was pounding. And you helped her? I asked, stunned. I tried to stop her. I swear. But I didn't know until it was too late. My voice dropped to a whisper. Where is she now? Julia hesitated. She's not overseas, is she? No, she finally said. She's back. She's back. I repeated, my voice barely rising above a whisper. Julia nodded slowly, guilt etched across her face. She came back a few weeks ago. She's not staying long, just tying up loose ends. I wasn't supposed to tell anyone. Where is she? I demanded. I don't know exactly, but I heard she's staying with someone named Tasha. They used to bartend together. Somewhere in Westbrook. That was only 40 minutes away. I left without another word. My pulse was thunder in my ears. I didn't even know what I was going to do when I saw her. Yell? Break down? Demand an explanation? Demand my life back? By the time I reached Westbrook, the sun was starting to dip. I drove around the block near the address Julia had texted me. It was a modest duplex with a little overgrown yard and rusted wind chimes on the porch. I parked and sat in my car for 10 full minutes. Then, just as I worked up the courage to knock, the door opened. There she was. Lila, my wife. The woman who vanished. The woman I loved. The woman who lied. She stepped out wearing a hoodie, sunglasses, and holding a small bag. She didn't see me, not at first. But I stood up, and when she looked in my direction, her face drained of color. We locked eyes. She didn't scream, didn't run. She just stared like she'd seen a ghost. And I guess, in a way, she had. "Hi, Lila," I said. She opened her mouth, then closed it. "I'm not here to hurt you," I added quietly. "I just want the truth." She glanced back at the door, maybe wondering if she could still escape, then sighed. "Come in." Inside was quiet, clean, nothing that screamed long-term stay. Just a few bags and a half-empty bottle of wine on the counter. She sat on the arm of the couch, arms folded across her chest. "I guess you found the emails," she said, voice brittle. I did. We stared at each other in silence for a long beat. "I loved you," I finally said. "Or at least, I thought I did. Thought I knew you." Her face crumpled slightly, but I couldn't tell if it was regret or just shame from being caught. "I didn't plan to fall for you," she whispered. "That part was real, but the rest wasn't." She didn't answer. "I was a target to you. A payout. You married me for the money. I had debts," she blurted. "Nico, he helped me. He promised it'd be temporary, that we'd split what we could and disappear before anything serious happened. But then it did happen. You. Us. I didn't expect to feel anything. And yet, you still left." Her voice cracked. I couldn't lie anymore. "Not to you. Not to myself. So I ran. But you took the money," I snapped. "You still cashed out." She flinched. "Only part of it. Nico handled that. I didn't touch a dime after I left." "Why come back?" She hesitated. "I wanted to make things right." I laughed bitterly. "By hiding out in someone else's house." "I've been talking to a lawyer," she said quickly. "I want to confess everything. I was scared." "You should be," I said coldly. "You committed fraud. You faked a marriage. You conned me." Tears filled her eyes. "I never meant to hurt you. But you did." The room pulsed with silence. Then she said something that shook me all over again. "I'm pregnant." Pregnant. The word hung in the air like a ticking bomb. I stared at her, trying to process what she just said, waiting for her to crack a smile, to admit it was a sick, twisted part of her con. But she didn't. Her eyes didn't waver. "You're lying," I finally said. "I'm not." I scoffed. "Right. Convenient timing, isn't it? You vanish for a year, steal my trust, ruin my life. And now you're carrying my child." "I didn't plan it," she whispered, voice trembling. "But it's real." "Is it mine?" She swallowed hard. "I didn't sleep with anyone else while we were together. I swear. Not even Nico. He was just a partner in the plan. That's all. That's all." I hissed. "The guy who convinced you to marry me so you could rob me was just a business associate?" "I didn't love him," she said, shaking. "I didn't even like him in the end. He pressured me. I was already in too deep by the time I met you. And you didn't think maybe, I don't know, not marrying me would have been the better option?" She looked down. I paced the room, trying to breathe. "This is insane. Absolutely insane. You're telling me you lied to me, ran from me, stole from me, destroyed me, and now you're here, back in my life, carrying my kid." "I didn't come back to trap you," she said quietly. "I came back to face what I did. I didn't want this to end like some ghost story. You deserve to look me in the eye. That doesn't fix anything." "I know. Are you keeping it?" I asked, unable to soften the tone in my voice. She looked up at me then, raw and honest. "Yes." I sat down, feeling like my bones had melted. "So what now, Lila? You confess, go to jail, and the kid grows up without a mother." She blinked, stunned. "You'd let that happen?" I didn't answer, because I didn't know. Did she deserve to be punished? Absolutely. Did the baby? It wasn't fair. None of this was. "I could disappear again," she said suddenly, her voice small. "Give you full custody. Let you raise the child without me. You deserve better. He or she deserves better." I looked at her belly, not showing yet, but everything about her posture had changed. More fragile, more real. "I don't want your pity," I said, "or your offer to step out like you're doing me a favor." "Then what do you want?" I met her eyes. "The truth. All of it. Every detail. From the beginning. I want to know exactly who you are and why you did this." Then I'll decide what to do. She nodded slowly, and she began to talk. Lila took a long breath, as if drawing the strength from somewhere deep and buried. It started before I met you. Years before, she said, eyes cast toward the floor. I was drowning in debt. My mom got sick, cancer. The treatments weren't covered, and my father was already gone. I took out loans, maxed out cards, sold everything. And when that wasn't enough, I borrowed money from people I shouldn't have. Her voice was flat, like she'd told this story to herself 1,000 times, but never out loud. Nico was one of them. He wasn't just a loan shark. He was a manipulator. He found people like me, desperate, broken, told me I was pretty, smart, useful. He said I could get out if I just did one thing. Con someone, I muttered. Not someone. A target. Someone with money. Trusting. Stable. He had me create fake profiles, fish around on dating sites. Look for men who fit a certain mold. At first, I refused. But when they threatened my mom's treatment, I cracked. She looked up, her eyes glossy. That's when I met you. I clenched my jaw. So you picked me. I didn't. I found you, but I didn't pick you. I wasn't supposed to fall in love with you. But you were kind. Too kind. You listened. You laughed at my dumb jokes. You brought me soup when I was sick and didn't even blink when I cried over finding Nemo. Her voice broke. I kept telling Nico the plan wouldn't work, that you weren't like the others. But he didn't care. He just wanted results. So I played along. I pretended. And then, I couldn't pretend anymore. But you still married me, I said, my voice raw. I thought if I said no, it would all fall apart. That I'd be free once I got the money and ran. I convinced myself it would hurt less if I vanished than if I stayed and confessed. Except you did hurt me. You destroyed me, Lila. Tears rolled down her face. I know. I've hated myself every day for it. But the night I left, I didn't take the full payout. I gave half to my mom's caregiver. The rest, Nico took. I was done with both of them. Then why the hell didn't you just tell me? I thought I'd ruined any chance of forgiveness. I thought I didn't deserve to be seen by you ever again. And now, I don't know. When I found out I was pregnant, I thought I could keep running. But the thought of our child growing up believing they were an accident, a lie, it gutted me. Her eyes met mine again. I'm not here to make excuses. I just didn't want to live a lie anymore. I didn't speak. I couldn't. Everything I thought I knew had been twisted, shattered, and reshaped into something unfamiliar. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was tragedy. After a long silence, I asked the only question I could manage. Where's Nico now? Her face hardened. He doesn't know I'm back. And he can't know. Why? Because if he finds out I kept the baby, he'll come for us. My breath caught. What do you mean he'll come for you? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Lila's hands trembled in her lap. Nico doesn't let people walk away. He calls it unfinished business. If he thinks I'm still in the picture, he'll think I'm a liability. Or worse, leverage. Leverage for what? He thinks I still have access to you, she said bitterly. To your money. To your life. If he finds out I'm carrying your child, he won't just threaten me. He'll see this baby as collateral. Something inside me snapped into focus. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It wasn't about heartbreak or revenge. It was about protection. I stood up and paced the room. Have you gone to the police? She shook her head. What would I tell them? That I conspired to commit fraud, and now the man I helped steal from might hurt me? I don't have evidence. I don't have anything that sticks. What about the emails? The bank transfers? He used proxies. Shell accounts. Everything was scrubbed. He knew how to cover his tracks. I was just the face. I turned toward her. Then we make him uncomfortable. We make him come out of the shadows. She looked at me, confused. What are you talking about? We bait him. We make him believe you did come back to cash in on me again. That you're close. That you're right back where you started, playing the role. And then we record everything. She stood up now, alarmed. No, Ethan. That's too dangerous. No more running, Lila. If you're really trying to make things right, then let's finish this. Her eyes darted around the room. What if he hurts you? I'm not afraid of him, I said. He already took enough from me. I'm not giving him the rest. She sat down slowly, clearly torn. I know someone, she finally said. An old contact of his. Someone he used to use as a middleman. If we get him to believe we're back together, married again, maybe even moving away, he'll send someone. Probably not himself at first, but he'll test the waters. That's all we need, I said. A test. She looked at me with a mixture of awe and fear. You're willing to pretend you love me again, just to trap him? I paused. No, I said softly. I'm willing to protect what's mine, even if I have to lie to do it. Her hand rested on her stomach, instinctively. Then we do it, she whispered. We give him what he wants, just long enough to make him fall into the light. And just like that, we weren't enemies anymore. We were co-conspirators. The next 2 weeks were a blur of planning, acting, and waiting. We rented a small apartment under my name on the outskirts of town. Cozy, modest, exactly the kind of place a reconciled couple might move into for a fresh start. I told my office I needed time off for personal reasons. My boss didn't ask questions. They'd seen what I went through after Lila disappeared. We staged social media posts. I uploaded a few private updates with limited visibility. Pictures of us having coffee, one blurry image of her hand over her stomach with the caption, "Unexpected joy. Second chances." She resisted that part, said it felt too manipulative. But she also knew it was the bait. Lila reconnected with the contact, a woman named Carla, someone she hadn't spoken to in over a year. The conversation was casual at first, a simple, "Hey, guess who's back?" text. Carla replied 2 hours later. "Nico will want to know." It had begun. Lila played it cool, told Carla she and I had rekindled things, that I was doing well, that we were discussing moving overseas, together. Carla didn't reply for a day. Then came a text that made the air in our apartment freeze. He says he wants to meet. In person. One time. Alone. We both stared at the screen. "No," I said immediately. "That's not happening." But Lila surprised me. "I'll do it." "Absolutely not," I snapped. "This guy is a manipulator, Lila. He could hurt you." She looked me straight in the eyes. "This ends with me, not you. If I want my child to grow up free of him, I have to burn the bridge myself." I clenched my fists. "Then I'm coming with you. Hidden. Armed. Whatever it takes." She nodded. The meet was set for Friday. Neutral ground. An old bar they used to frequent, now closed and abandoned, waiting for demolition. Cliché? Maybe. But it worked. We placed a tiny recording device in her jacket, one I'd borrowed from a tech-savvy friend who owed me a favor. I waited outside, parked behind a dumpster, phone in hand, heart thudding in my chest. She walked in at 9:03 p.m., and for 20 excruciating minutes, I heard nothing but silence. Then a voice came through the static. "Male. Cold. Calculated. Didn't think you had the guts to show." Lila's voice was steady. "I'm not afraid of you anymore. You should be." I nearly burst through the door right then. But I waited. "You're getting cozy with the mark again," he said. "That wasn't part of the plan." "There is no plan anymore," she said. "This is done. You owe me, Lila. You think you get to just walk away? That baby in your belly, his? Or mine?" "You know it's his," she snapped. "And you're not touching him. Or me. Ever again." He laughed, low and cruel. "You really think Mr. Nice Guy is going to forgive you? That you'll get some happy ending?" "I'm not asking for a happy ending," she said. "Just for you to leave us the hell alone." Then he said it. The one thing that sealed his fate. "Too late for that. I've got people watching. If I don't make it out of here, he won't either." I heard it. The sound of a gun being cocked. That was my cue. I burst through the door like a man possessed. The bar was dark, lit only by faint moonlight seeping through broken windows. Dust hung in the air like mist. And there they were, Lila standing tall, her back straight, and Nico, taller than I imagined, wiry, snake-like, holding a gun casually by his side, like it was part of his body. He turned toward me, his face unreadable. Well, he said, grinning. "Mr. Husband joins the party." "Drop it," I growled. "Now." He raised an eyebrow. "You brought a mic, didn't you?" I didn't answer. "You're smarter than she gave you credit for," he mused. "But not smart enough. You walk in here, no backup, no badge, no plan." "I don't need a badge," I said. "Just this." I pulled out my phone and hit play. His voice echoed back at him. "That baby in your belly, his? Or mine? You really think Mr. Nice Guy is going to forgive you? Too late for that. I've got people watching." His smile vanished. "You're bluffing," he said, eyes narrowing. "I'm not." For a second, the whole world felt frozen. Nico's finger hovered near the trigger. Lila didn't move. My thumb hovered over the phone. Then came the sound we'd been counting on, the sirens. Faint, but growing louder. He turned toward the door, then back to me. "You stupid son of a..." Before he could finish, Lila slammed the side of her fist into his wrist. The gun clattered to the floor. I dove for it, kicked it out of reach, then pinned him to the ground with a rage I didn't even know I had left in me. The rusted floor scraped my knees, but I didn't care. He squirmed, spat at me. You think this ends with me? You think I'm the worst out there? No, I whispered into his ear. Just the first. By the time the cops arrived, we had him restrained. They arrested him without a fight. Turns out, the recording, combined with Lila's signed testimony and the financial trails we documented, was more than enough to build a case. It didn't just end with Nico. The raid that followed exposed 3 more players in his network, including Carla. They all went down. Hard. But for us, the battle wasn't over. The next weeks were filled with interrogations, testimonies, late-night calls from detectives, and media attention we never wanted. And still, through it all, Lila stayed. No more lies. No more running. We lived in that tiny apartment for 3 more months, barely speaking sometimes, healing in silence. Until one morning, she placed my hand on her belly and whispered, "He kicked." I looked at her, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I saw the woman I once fell in love with. Not perfect, not innocent, but real. 2 months later, our son was born. We named him Caleb, a name that means wholehearted. Fitting, considering everything he came from. He had Lila's dark eyes, my chin, and a wail that could shake the paint off walls. But the first time I held him, I didn't think about the betrayal or the lies. I thought about the future. About him. About us. I won't lie and say things magically healed the moment he arrived. Parenthood doesn't erase pain. It just gives you something more important than pain to focus on. I moved back into the city for work. Lila stayed in Westbrook with Caleb for a while. We didn't define what we were. We didn't force titles or promises. We just showed up for him. Together. Therapy became part of our weekly routine, separately, and sometimes as a pair. The sessions were hard, honest, unforgiving. We talked about the manipulation, the lies, the anger, and the buried guilt neither of us wanted to carry anymore. It wasn't about blame anymore. It was about understanding. About survival. Lila offered to give up parental rights once, thinking maybe I'd want to start clean. But I couldn't do that. Because no matter how twisted her path was, she made a choice to come back, to fight, to stand in front of the very man who had owned her life and finally say, no more. That mattered. That had to matter. Caleb took his first steps between us one rainy afternoon, arms outstretched, toppling into her lap after 2 wobbly steps. She cried. I laughed. And for a split second, the past didn't matter. Just the little boy between us. Years have passed now. Nico's behind bars. We testified against him in court. He never once looked at Lila. He knew she won. And maybe I did too. People still ask me, quietly, sometimes cruelly, how can you still be around her? After everything. And I don't always have an answer that satisfies them. But here's what I know. Lila broke me. But she also rebuilt herself, brick by agonizing brick. She turned a lie into truth, a mistake into motherhood, a betrayal into an apology that never came cheap or easy. And I chose to stay, not because I forgot, but because I forgave. Not for her, for me, for Caleb, for the chance that maybe, just maybe, we can raise a child who never has to unlearn the things we did wrong. A child who knows love doesn't mean perfect. It means present. It means fighting. It means starting over, even when it hurts. And some days, when Lila smiles at me from across the park as Caleb chases birds in mud, I realize something. The best endings don't look like fairy tales. They look like survival. They look like us.